We will continue with the last part of the program today, and now it's my turn to present. And my name is Giedrė Jarulaitienė. Originally, I'm from this beautiful country, Lithuania, but at the moment I am working in Norway at the Drameno municipality with cultural heritage. So first of all, I would like to thank Rasa and Gita for inviting me here. It is always a pleasure to come back to this place where my heart, a piece of my heart, is staying. So, and I think the topic of the conference today is very important. And I think my everyday work actually shows why it is important. So starting with, I'm going to present my theme now in like four main topics, and that's the first one is I will go through the system of heritage protection in Norway, the level of centralization and the role of municipalities. Next, I'm going to talk about the role of professionals. That means authorities, specialists of heritage protection, the role of interested parties, owners and local communities, and then I will show how the voice of the local communities might be heard and how important they are actually in for example, urban planning in my municipality. So, heritage protection system in Norway developed continuously, gradually, just like in Sweden we heard before, evolving to accommodate new institutions and organizations responsible for both immovable and movable cultural heritage, as well as tangible and intangible heritage. The key heritage protection institutions were established in the 19th century. The beginning of heritage protection is directly linked with the national revival movement that began from 1814. And at that time, the medieval and Viking eras were considered a cornerstone of heritage preservation and the foundation of statehood. For this reason, the primary heritage classification criterion was based on the value of age, supported by dating for categorizing heritage objects. After Norway enacted its first cultural heritage law in 1905, the Norwegian heritage protection system underwent significant changes in both legislative and organizational aspects. Heritage objects also diversified in typology, geography, age, and ethnic terms. However, all these changes in Norway, just as in Sweden, were less influenced by external forces or historical cataclysms, like here in Lithuania. From the perspective of Lithuania, these changes were not as extensive or rapid. The Norwegian heritage protection system can be described as an organically grown and involved system. Before the emergence of heritage conservation initiatives in the 19th century, the first individual attempts in Norway to register and scientifically investigate the first heritage objects were made, particularly monumental stones. For example, in 1622, by the order of King Christian IV, all bishops in Norway, Denmark, were required to register various antiquities and documents. The establishment of the first scientific museums in Norway was also related to the later Enlightenment ideas. In 1760, the Royal Norwegian Society of Sciences was founded, and later driven by various initiatives, the History Museum in Bergen, University of Antiquities Museum, the Museum of Tromsø, and Stavanger Museum were established. All that happened in the 19th century. The primary purpose of these museums was the collection and preservation of movable cultural treasures and other museum activities. The direct influence of German Romantic nationalism was actually the foundation of the heritage system in Norway. It was transferred to Norway by the Norwegian painter Johan Christian Dahl, who worked in Dresden and Leipzig. He performed antiquarian travel to Norway after his studies and painted the landscapes with medieval stave churches and old farm buildings. He aimed to build public awareness and raise the value of depicted buildings, and directly contributed to saving several stave churches, and even if such measures as exporting the locally unwanted building abroad had to be taken. One of such extreme examples is the effort made by Dahl to save one stave church from Valdres, which was threatened by demolition because it had become too small for the local community. Due to disinterest in the local area, the church was bought, documented, and removed by private initiative of Dahl, who obtained a personal bank loan for that purpose, and which was then taken over by the King of Prussia, Friedrich Wilhelm IV. The stave church was relocated to Silesia, and the same king in 1843 nominated Ferdinand von Quast as the first state antiquarian in all the Germanic countries. The king showed exceptional interest in safeguarding historic buildings, especially the symbols of the common Germanic past, and therefore the preservation of the Norwegian stave churches fulfilled the Prussian ideological program of heritage preservation at the time. The most important contribution of Dahl to the Norwegian heritage conservation movement was the founding of the already mentioned Fortidsminneforeningen, or the Society for Preservation of Norwegian Ancient Monuments, in 1844. Interestingly, according to some Norwegian researchers, Dahl's attempt to safeguard one stave church was the main stimulus to cause the founding of the society, which was primarily preoccupied with the worsening situation of the stave churches in Norway. The society was established according to the German model, as Dahl himself was a member of a German equivalent association, which was started in Dresden in 1824. The first paragraph, which was mentioned already before today, of the statute of the Fortidsminneforeningen was identical to the first paragraph of the Statute of the Society of Saxony. Consequently, in 1844, when the painter Dahl founded the Monuments Protection Association, the focus was primarily on medieval stave churches and other stone churches. From 1860, the association received state support, which was enough for one person to register the kingdom's heritage. When archaeologist Nikolai Nikolaisen became the chairman of the association in the 19th century, the scope of the archaeological excavations reached a significant scale. In particular, burial mounds were excavated due to the great potential and aimed to accumulate ancient artificial collections. Today, the methods of archaeological excavations in the 19th century raise many questions. The ruins of medieval churches and monasteries also came into the focus of the initial excavations. And you can see currently the site of such excavations is, there is a medieval park established in Oslo, where the ruins are preserved and miniature reconstructions are made. The value of age has been the primary criterion for heritage conservation since the 19th century. Chronological separation remains the basis of Norwegian heritage conservation system and legislative framework until this day. In 1905, the Cultural Monuments Act divided the operational duties and responsibilities for immovable and movable heritage objects between the Monuments Protection Association and archaeological museums. In 1905, all immovable and movable heritage objects dating back to the pre-Reformation era, and that is before 1537, were automatically protected by law. The Reformation-based valuation of heritage objects remains a foundational point of Norway's heritage conservation, just as the division of heritage activities between regional archaeological museums responsible for safeguarding movable heritage values and ongoing Cultural Monuments Association, which is partly responsible for immovable cultural heritage. The association was the main responsible institution until 1912, when the Cultural Heritage Department, Riksantikvaren, was established. Although the Cultural Heritage Department has had professional responsibility for the entire cultural heritage protection system since 1988, this responsibility was gradually being decentralized by assigning it to counties and municipalities. Since 1990, these municipalities have taken on an increasingly important role in regional heritage conservation. They have been delegated tasks related to building protection within their respective areas. And today, all the municipalities in Norway, they are not only controlling, but first of all, they are informing the owners of the heritage objects what and how the buildings have to be restored and treated. So it is very common that we make some guidance which is available, like booklets that we share with the owners, how to treat, for example, windows, how to treat facades, what kind of colors can be used, what kind of materials. Also, when it comes to new technological inventions like solar panels or sun protection, or how to reuse the cold attics, we also make some recommendations. Not only the heritage protection system gradually was decentralizing, but the concept of heritage is also changing. In the 19th century, heritage preservation primarily focused on individual heritage objects due to the scientific or artistic value, like, for example, state churches. The heritage movement management activities had a clear political dimension related to national revival. These values remained relevant in the 20th century, but in the 21st century, a new cultural interest is emerging, rooted in the understanding that heritage conservation is an integral part of comprehensive environmental protection. And the key aspects of this direction include: culture and nature are perceived as in a common environmental perspective. Individual heritage objects are valued in relation to other objects and as parts of larger entities, like, for example, cultural landscapes or cultural environments. Cultural heritage protection is integrated into overall territorial and social planning. The significance of cultural objects for a specific area or environment is most important. And lastly, the importance of cultural objects in maintaining the quality of life and preserving local identity is emphasized. In In 1980, the World Heritage Site Røros was included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. And this is a nice example that at first only the city center was considered as a having cultural value. But in 2010, the World Heritage Site was extended to include cultural monuments and landscapes beyond the town center. And also the community who takes care about the cultural heritage protection has been growing and includes not only professionals but also local communities. But first, I will introduce some of the research institutions in Norway which we collaborate when it comes to scientific research. And that is NICO, the Norwegian Institute of Heritage Protection. Also a new, quite new establishment that's called Murbyen Oslo, and that's the Center of Preservation of specifically brick buildings, which was established and is financed also by Oslo municipality. As you already heard from a former presenter, it is very common to organize traditional craftsmanship workshops in all over the country. And these are the pictures from one of such workshops organized in Røros, which is also UNESCO World Heritage Site. As in Sweden, as well as in Norway, a new approach to the traditional craftsmanship is emerging, and it's also taking, and it becomes so important that it's also comes into the focus of the universities. For example, you can take a bachelor studies in traditional building techniques at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, Faculty of Architecture and Design, and even get PhD. These activities are spread not only in around the capital or bigger educational centers, but also smaller building preservation centers are established all over the country. And in our region, there is a Buskerud building preservation center which is still operating. We have visited the center before, and I made this map just to show the distribution of those building preservation centers in Norway, just that you would get an idea how important and how large the network is. Back to my home municipality in Drammen, Norway. It's my third year now working as a consultant for cultural heritage conservation. At the last year now, I was also the main heritage conservator in the town. And during this period, I got to know both and experience both positive and negative things. And one of the positive is actually that unauthorized preservation of heritage objects and cultural environments are quite it's not a individual thing. I mean, it happens a lot. For example, this is an example of one street which is called Sundgata, one of the oldest streets in Drammen. And none of these buildings in this area. Can you see my mouse? Yeah, this is the street, and these are the buildings. going upwards, the terrain, and this is the picture I took downwards. So none of these buildings are actually enlisted as cultural heritage, but they are taking relatively good care of. It's not maybe according to ideal antiquarian principles, but still we consider it quite well preserved. We, as a municipality, we work a lot with local communities and, for example, local historical societies. We have 8 local historical societies in the municipality, 8 different. And the most difficult thing is to make them talk together. This is a picture from last week. Where we try to make the plans for the whole next year, where we actually also could present our needs, where we need our local community to be involved in the urban planning. And this is one of the examples. This is an old hospital area, which has a lot of old buildings from the 18th century, but also some newer buildings, and this is considered we are considering it should be enlisted as cultural heritage, even though the building from the 1980, it doesn't fit into the landscape, but it's an example of the after-war urban planning. And we are inviting the local historical societies to participate in the urban planning project now. Some things go well, some things don't. For example, in this case, even though the Fortidsminneforeningen and NICO were involved and we also gave our opinion on the urban planning. Those beautiful buildings you see, and also a new, it's kind of postmodernistic building built in the street. They will be demolished in order to build high blocks of apartments. So this is another example. We worked on the urban planning project, which is based in Strømsø. It is an old area of the town. This is how the work process looks like, where we gather different information from the local communities, and we implement the wishes and needs in the planning documents. And this is the result. We made a regulation plan for the area, based actually on the needs of the local community. They were heard. And this is the thing that I love most from my 3 years of experience now. We were invited by the local neighborhood to celebrate 100 years of inscription to the heritage list of their building. Celebrate. So it was not an initiative taken by us. It was the owners of the house who made the big event, invited the county, the municipality to celebrate the event. But it's the same area. And as I say, as the director of the museum just said, do we see the glass of water half empty or half full? This is the historical area and a new town square where they are planning now to build high skyscrapers or even massive buildings which are not that high, but still they contrast the historical environment a lot. So in the same area, there are both positive and negative things. But I as well choose to see the, the bright side. And these are the examples from the same Strömsö area, which I love and I'm burning for. And it's a very nice, a very interesting area because most of the inhabitants there, they are actually immigrants, not non-Western immigrants mainly. And now I'm thinking about making a project and working together with the local community, because I think that people are part of the cultural environment. It's not only the buildings, it's not only the physical environment, it's also the people who live there, even if they are not local. So this is my future work, and I'm very happy to be here and to present. Thank you.